The marriage abyss. Have you ever wondered how long someone can pretend to love you? How many nights they can lie beside you, planning their escape while you're dreaming of your future together? What if I told you that the person you've shared 8 years of your life with could vanish overnight, leaving behind nothing but legal papers and a wedding photo featuring your high school tormentor? My name is Charlotte, and at 24, I thought I understood what marriage meant. I was wrong about everything. The expensive candles had burned down to stubs by the time I realized David wasn't coming home. It was our 8th wedding anniversary, and I had spent hours preparing what I believed would be a perfect evening. Wagyu beef sat cold on the plate, the wine had lost its chill, and the custom birthday cake I'd ordered for his 30th birthday looked ridiculous under the dim lighting of our Denver apartment. At 10:35 p.m., my phone buzzed with an email that would change everything, though I didn't know it yet. Major client emergency. Stuck at the office. We'll make it up to you later. No apology, no acknowledgement of the date, no warmth. Just cold efficiency, like a business transaction. I stared at that message until the words blurred. 8 years of marriage, and this was how he chose to communicate on our anniversary? Something twisted in my stomach, but it wasn't heartbreak. It was anger, sharp and clean, cutting through years of accumulated disappointments I'd carefully filed away. The next morning, I didn't call David to check on his supposed emergency. Instead, I drove to his office building, the same place where I'd once surprised him with a birthday party 2 years ago. The memory felt hollow now, like looking at someone else's life through a dirty window. His secretary, Maria, looked confused when I asked for him. Mrs. James? David submitted his resignation 3 days ago. He didn't leave any forwarding information. The words hit me like ice water. 3 days. He had been planning this while I was picking out wine and ordering cakes, while I was believing in us. I drove home in a daze, pieces of the puzzle clicking together with sickening clarity. The late nights, the distant looks, the way he'd stopped touching me unless I initiated it. How long had he been preparing to disappear? When I opened our apartment door, David was in the bedroom, methodically packing a leather suitcase I'd never seen before. Not his usual gym bag or the luggage we'd used for vacations, but something expensive and new. He was folding shirts that still had price tags, designer ties, shoes that had never touched our floors. "You're back," he said without looking up, as if I were a roommate returning from a grocery run. "What are you doing?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too calm for what I was witnessing. That's when he placed a manila folder on the dresser. Divorce papers. My hands shook as I opened it, scanning words that didn't seem real. Irreconcilable differences, division of assets, a date that showed he'd filed this weeks ago. "You're leaving me," I said, not a question but a statement of fact. David finally looked at me then, and I saw a stranger. "You stopped being the wife I needed a long time ago. You're always working, always focused on your career. This house feels empty even when you're in it." The accusation was so unfair it took my breath away. I work because we need the money. I pay half the rent, half the utilities, I cook dinner every night, but you're never here to eat it. When did you start seeing me as the problem? Don't make this about blame, Charlotte. Some people just aren't compatible long term. He zipped the suitcase closed with finality. "I've taken a position in Albuquerque. I start Monday." The casualness of his tone, the way he discussed dismantling our life like rearranging furniture, ignited something fierce in me. "So this is it? 8 years, and you just decided we're done? What about working on things? What about counseling?" "I've already made my choice." He lifted the suitcase, and I noticed he was wearing cologne I'd never smelled before. "I'll send someone for the rest of my things." As he walked past me toward the door, I felt something break inside my chest, but it wasn't my heart. It was the careful construction of who I thought I was supposed to be. The accommodating wife, the understanding partner, the woman who absorbed disappointment like a sponge and squeezed out forgiveness. David. He paused at the door. "I hope she's worth it." He didn't deny there was someone else. He just left. I spent the next week in a strange state of suspended animation, going to work, coming home, staring at legal documents I couldn't quite process. Friends called offering support, but how do you explain that your husband evaporated like steam, that 8 years of your life had been reduced to a signature on papers you never saw coming? Then came the phone call that shattered what remained of my reality. "Charlotte?" David's voice was different, shaky in a way I'd never heard before. "I need to tell you something." It had been 3 weeks since he'd walked out. I'd signed the divorce papers, moved to a smaller apartment in Boulder, started rebuilding. I'd also blocked his number, but he was calling from an unknown line. "We're having a baby," he said without preamble. The words made no sense. "We?" "Seraphina and I. We got married last month. She's 3 months pregnant." The cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. He'd been planning this entire sequence of events. The resignation, the divorce, the immediate remarriage. I'd been living with a ghost for months, maybe years. "Congratulations." I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. "There's more." His tone carried an edge of panic now. "She's..." Charlotte, do you remember high school? Do you remember Seraphina Jones? The name triggered a memory so distant I almost dismissed it. Seraphina Jones. Quiet, awkward, the girl who sat in the back of every class with her head down. She'd been ruthlessly teased for her appearance, her shyness, her second-hand clothes. The girl with the thick glasses? She moved away junior year. That's her, except she's different now, completely different. I pulled up Facebook with trembling fingers, searching for Seraphina Whitmore, the name David had mentioned. The profile that appeared showed a stunning blonde woman with perfect features, the kind of beauty that looked professionally crafted. But something about the eyes, the slight asymmetry of her smile, triggered recognition. She's had extensive plastic surgery, David continued, his voice hollow. Everything changed. Her face, her body, even her social status. Her family owns a real estate empire in Santa Fe. They built us a house, gave me a vice president position at their company. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. David hadn't left me for love. He'd left me for an opportunity, a carefully constructed life upgrade. And Seraphina had orchestrated it all. Why are you telling me this? Because I think she planned it, all of it. She knew who I was, knew about us. She sought me out, Charlotte. I think this whole thing was deliberate. A cold realization washed over me. You think she targeted you to get back at me? I don't know. Maybe. She mentions you sometimes, asks questions about our marriage. It's like she studied us. I hung up without saying goodbye and blocked that number too. But the seed of understanding David had planted grew into a terrible garden of possibility. Had Seraphina Jones, the girl we'd all overlooked and dismissed, transformed herself into the perfect weapon against the life I'd built? 3 months later, I found out just how deep her planning had gone. I was having coffee with my old friend Lana when she showed me a photo from a parenting group. Isn't this sad? This little girl has been getting bullied at preschool because some kids found out her mom had plastic surgery. They keep saying her mom used to be ugly. The photo showed a small girl with David's dark hair and unmistakable features that belonged to neither the current Seraphina nor David. She looked exactly like Seraphina Jones from high school. The original version, before the transformation. The mother is having a breakdown. Lana continued. Apparently she won't even hold the baby anymore, won't look at her. The grandmother has to take care of everything. That's when it hit me. Seraphina hadn't just wanted to steal my life. She'd wanted to become someone so perfect that even her own genetics couldn't betray her. But DNA doesn't lie, and her daughter was living proof of who she really was underneath all that surgery. The final piece of the puzzle came 6 months later, when David called again. This time from his own number, desperate and broken. She's leaving me, Charlotte. Seraphina filed for divorce. She found out I was seeing someone at the office. His voice cracked with something that might have been tears. She's taking everything. The house, my job, even my daughter. Your daughter? She won't let me see her. Says the child is a reminder of her worst mistakes. Charlotte, she's talking about giving her up for adoption. Her own daughter. The horror of it silenced me. Whatever Seraphina had done to me paled in comparison to what she was doing to an innocent child. I was wrong, David whispered. About everything. About you. About what I wanted. About what matters. I destroyed something real for something fake, and now it's all falling apart. But I wasn't the same woman he'd left behind. The months of rebuilding had shown me who I was when I wasn't trying to be someone's ideal wife. I'd started my own small architectural firm, cultivated friendships that weren't tied to couples' activities, learned to enjoy my own company. I'm sorry your life didn't turn out the way you planned, I told him, and I meant it. But I'm not sorry mine didn't turn out the way you planned either. Charlotte, I know I don't deserve it, but I need to ask you something. If something happens to me, if I can't take care of my daughter, would you consider, could you possibly... The request hung between us, enormous and impossible. He was asking me to be a safety net for the child whose existence had been designed to hurt me, whose mother had orchestrated the destruction of my marriage. I'll think about it, I said, because despite everything, I couldn't punish a child for the sins of her parents. That conversation was 2 years ago. David's daughter, Emma, is now 5 years old and lives with her paternal grandmother after Seraphina abandoned them both for a new life in Europe. David sends me updates sometimes, photos of a little girl who looks startlingly like the lonely teenager Seraphina once was. I never did become Emma's guardian. David found his footing as a single father, and I found peace in knowing that some stories don't need neat endings to be complete. As for Seraphina, I heard she's living in Milan now, under a different name, having undergone even more procedures to distance herself from who she used to be. But I've learned that running from yourself is a race you can never win. DNA tells the truth. Children carry your past into the future, and no amount of surgery can change what lives in your heart. I'm 31 now, running my own firm from a sun-filled office in downtown Boulder. I date sometimes, but I'm no longer desperate for someone to complete me. I learned that I was never incomplete to begin with, just convinced I was by someone who needed me to be smaller so he could feel bigger. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if David had simply been honest, if he'd said he was unhappy and wanted to work on things instead of planning his escape in secret. But then I remember that his deception wasn't a flaw in his character, it was his character, and Seraphina's revenge wasn't about justice, it was about power. The truth is, they deserved each other. Not because they were both bad people, but because they were both people who believed happiness could be stolen from someone else rather than built from within. I built my happiness from scratch, and no one can take that away from me. Every morning when I wake up in my own space, surrounded by things I chose and earned myself, I remember that the best revenge isn't making someone else miserable, it's making yourself genuinely happy. And I am happy. Finally. Authentically. Unshakably happy. That's something Seraphina, for all her surgeries and schemes, never figured out how to steal.